What is up, YouTube? Today, we're going to have a car chat. To start it off, I think we found a new car. So I worked out a deal on a 2005 S2000. It has 64,000 miles on it. It's in primo shape. I think that's going to be the new car of the channel. So that's exciting news. We're glad to see that happening. So 2005 S2000, for those who might not know, is a Honda. It's considered an AP2, which is the second generation of the S2000. It comes equipped with the F22. It's a 2.2 liter four-cylinder. Makes roughly 240 horsepower. I want to say around 170 something pound-feet of torque. Those are crank numbers. Weighs in at like 2860. So power to weight's not bad. It's not quite 135 fast, but it's a good car for sure. It's really a driver's car. It does have electric power steering. It was apparently Honda's first go at electric power steering. I've watched videos where they describe it as not having the most feel, but I've driven them and I didn't notice it as an issue. That'll be interesting. Maybe something we could work around. Maybe something we could just delete altogether and do a manual rack. It's kind of more my taste, kind of more what I'm going for with this car build. What else about it? Oh, another interesting thing that has to go, it's got a clutch delay valve, which is pretty common on modern manual transmission cars. But when you're trying to bang gears in it, it's very, very obvious. So like I recall when I was test driving it, the guy was, hey man, get on it a little bit. I got on it and I didn't even shift that quick, but I let the clutch out quick post shift, and you could hear the clutch dragging for the brief period of time. So it was interesting. I'd never driven a car with clutch delay valve, but I understand why it's there. Minimize shock on the whole drive line. I'll definitely do some more reading before I get serious about getting rid of it. But I believe that the earlier gen cars didn't have it. Like the AP1s, they might not have actually had the clutch delay valve. Because I think when people try and delete the clutch delay valve, they use an AP1 master cylinder and do a little bit of modification. So something to look into. I think before we try and go anywhere with power in the car, it's definitely going to be a lightweight game. See, things like racing seats, and start with racing seats, a lightweight battery, a handful of things of that nature to try and start cutting back on weight from the vehicle, possibly a hard top, or if nothing else, you can delete just the electric motor from the soft top. And I think that's, well, I know the whole top assembly is good for a significant amount of weight. I don't know how much if you delete just the motor and run like a manual soft top. What else? It's silver. We've already ordered wraps, so I'm going to wrap it like a satin, like a real dark gray, kind of similar to one of the other colors that the S2000 came in, but in a satin form. So I think that'll look pretty good. We'll have to get some wheels for it pretty quick. And I think I want to get brakes. I think I want to do brakes like maybe first mod to the car. We'll see. Brakes are catless, high flow catted downpipe, something along those lines. Because I really love the way the stock exhaust sounds if you simply delete the cat. It's just the perfect sounding. So the thing with Hondas is like everybody wants these super over the top free flowing exhaust, and it's kind of not necessary. Like I know one of the EP3 or like the RSX Type S that I used to drive, well the EP3 I used to drive, but same as the Type S. The stock axle back section on that car is good for like 350 horse all motor. I don't know about boosted, but it's good for that much power. So if you're not exceeding that power level, you could run a stock exhaust and it's not going to choke you out too much. I mean, it will become your restriction point around that horsepower, but up to that point, it doesn't need to be super loud. I don't know. It's just my style. I'm not into everybody look at me exhausts. I like things that are OEM plus, if you might. Other plans, I want to get the 135 all prettied up, the last stages of what I may or may not be modifying with that car. I think I'm going to post it for sale. So we got some stuff to do with the 135. But the S2000 is going to create a lot of project potential for the channel. So there's a lot of fun stuff we can do with it. And it's more of a driver's, or it's just more simple. Let's just go with that. I mean, BMWs are great driver's cars, don't get me wrong. But my particular BMW wasn't exactly the lightest, and BMW isn't exactly known for making the lightest cars either. So the idea that I could get the 135 down to sub 3,000 pounds is some serious weight reduction to get it there. But I think it could be done, and it, 3,000-ish pounds, that car would be insanely fast. But again, I mean, daily drivability, and the transmission in the 135 is incredibly heavy. So mine has the dual clutch. It's not a light transmission. Things like that. It just all adds up to a very porky car. So we're gonna get into something a little lighter and see if we can't bring it down even lighter than that, and then bring the power up just a little bit above stock and get something that ends up having a better power to weight ratio, or is less portly, is more connected to the road. Gives it a more direct feel. That was my one thing with German cars. I guess the only way to say it is it's not a Japanese car. So like all the Japanese cars I've ever driven, there's something about the way the chassis is put together. It has a more rigid feel. And I understand that maybe it's less compliant, so it's more of a harsh ride, and that's why you get that feel. And the BMWs in German cars might have just as good of a chassis, but since the chassis is given more compliance, even though you're able to drive it just as well, it doesn't feel the same way. So I think I think the Japanese cars, so like for example, like I was ripping around in my 135 one night and I stopped at my dad's house. I needed to go pick some stuff up, so I hopped in a Nissan Altima, a boring Japanese sedan. Like it's not a sport, it's not the sporty version, it's not a fancy anything. And I just remember thinking like, wow, this car, I feel so much driving it. I could feel the tires and what was going on, and it's an Altima. I wasn't out racing around in it, but it felt more engaging. And I think that the S2000 is really going to give me that. So that's where we are on the S2000 hunt. Another little brief sidebar I wanted to chat about is street legal side-by-sides. So everybody wants their Polaris and their Razor. I don't know, those might be the same thing. Do call me on it. Put it in the comments. Let's all learn something together. But everybody wants their CVT driven side-by-sides. But Yamaha makes a side-by-side that is a sequential, dog box transmission side-by-side. By far the coolest side-by-side in my personal opinion. And I want to say it was like this model year or the last. They also came out with a turbo version that makes very comparable power to all the other, popular big name side-by-sides, and you still get that transmission. So like that could be a cool addition to the fleet at some point in time in the future. I'd like to lower it, put it on street tires, and make it street legal, and have like a fun summer get around machine. You and a buddy, or you and whoever hop in, and you can just cruise around town in an open air. It's just a fun little toy to have. Might be something fun to look into in the future. But I know you can get it made street legal. Like it's common. It's becoming common practice. So the idea of street legaling a side by side is something I'm super into, and the sequential transmission in the Yamaha. So it's the YXZ 1000R, I think is what it's called. Um, and the sequential transmission, and it's so rad. It's such a cool side by side. If they made like a cool looking like enclosed top for it, I would totally daily something like that. Like I would stop looking for street like originally street going cars and just go buy the side by side if it had an enclosed top. I mean, you got to be able to drive it in the rain and not get soaked. Like, let's be honest. Like, I would drive something that's pretty hardcore and pretty not good as a daily, but you have to be able to get places and not be soaked. Like, I can't show up for work and have to change my clothes like on a rainy day. That's just not practical. But totally something I would daily. That could be a lot of fun, and definitely something I've been looking into, and you know, in the future, we'll definitely check it out. So another thing that I was thinking about, and if we close on our house this Friday, we might I might go do some riding, some trail riding with buddies, and I don't really know how I would make that content engaging, because I'm not a big fan of content where somebody throws a GoPro on their drift car or their dirt bike for that matter and just goes and rides around. I mean, that's not cool. That's not the coolest, most engaging footage. But maybe we could do more of like a vloggy. This is what we're up to, and then we go from vlog cam to GoPro while we ride for a little bit, and then we come back and like we're hanging out and we just kind of weekend shenanigans as what would normally be like a Monday video, and it would end up being a Monday video in this case too if I do end up doing it. But you have to let me know if you guys like that when I post it. That's kind of it for tonight, man. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.